I was blessed to serve 4 years in the Dominican Republic. And my first year there, I was so blinded by the material poverty of the people, I could not really understand or see what was happening. And after about a year, I was so blinded by their spiritual beauty and wealth that I no longer saw them as poor. But it took a while for that adjustment to take place. Our people were relatively poor. I'm sure better off than some in the world, but certainly struggling just to have a subsistence living, and certainly didn't have many of the opportunities that we take for granted. But in our parish, which was composed of 27 villages over about 50 square miles, there was one family that was even poorer than most. They lived up off by themselves. They lived in a house that they had constructed themselves out of mud and sticks and cement. And they had one of everything. They had one daughter, they had one bed, they had one table, they had one chair, and they had one chicken. And they ate once a day. And they kept this chicken tied up and they fed it scraps, and we joked that when that chicken was good and ready, we'd have this huge feast. So one day they got word to me that their daughter was ill. So I went up bumping in my pickup truck to anoint her, pray with her, bless her. And when I was finished, we all sat outside and they made me sit on the chair. I was the guest. And this beautiful sea of stars came out. And when it was time to leave, the husband got up, untied the chicken and gave it to me and said, thank you for anointing our daughter. Thank you for visiting us. And I was completely dumbstruck because this was the one thing that they had. This was the one possession that they had, and he was just generously handing it over to me as a sign of gratitude. So we spent 40 minutes arguing in Spanish about me not wanting to take the chicken, him insisting that I take it. And finally I did, because I realized he'd be insulted if I didn't receive it graciously. So it's 11 o'clock at night, I'm bouncing down this potholed road with this flapping, clucking chicken flying around the cabin of my truck. When I think of today's gospel, which is the widow's mite, I think of that narrative. Because Jesus calls the apostles' attention to this woman's donation, which is just a couple of pennies, nothing significant in the eyes of the world. And yet he relates that what she gave was more than everyone, because she gave everything that she had. So once we realize that God has given us everything that he has in the person of Jesus, once we realize that Jesus gave us everything that he had in terms of dying on the cross and rising from the dead, then our faith response becomes one of gratitude and generosity, because we realize the gifts we've received are not meant to be hoarded, not meant simply for our own pleasure and use, but meant to be shared, to build up God's kingdom and to serve our brothers and sisters. Until that chicken incident, I could never quite understand why the Dominican people carried themselves with such a dignity that belied their circumstances, why they never complained. And they were savvy enough to know that not everybody in the world lived like they did, the subsistence farming. But that question was answered the night that I was with that family, because I realized the great secret of their joy and their faith and their confidence was gratitude. So if we're grateful, it frees us from self-pity, from jealousy, from envy, from complacency, when we realize that we've been given so much. So gratitude gladly takes the lowest place because it realizes how much has already been given. Self-entitlement is never satisfied because it always craves more. And as Matthew Kelly says, you can never have enough of what you don't need. So as we enter more deeply into this month of Thanksgiving, we're reminded that for us as Christians, Thanksgiving isn't just the fourth Thursday of the month. It's a way of life. The word Eucharist means thanksgiving. So we give thanks and praise to God for the gift of life, the gift of faith, the gift of Jesus, and the 1,001 things that he has blessed us with. And we ask the Lord to give us the grace to live with joyful and grateful hearts.